took a ride around Hutch Mountain on Dave and Sherry's RZR took us for a ride around Hutch Mountain. Did a big loop. That was a lot of fun. Some beautiful areas that we saw, and also we saw some elk and deer on the road. I hope it shows up on the video. I tried to get them with the camera as we went by, because of course they hear us and they take off. No thanks.
It kind of looks like Big Lake in here a little bit with the trees and stuff.
Oh yeah, it does.
Our friends Dave and Sherry are taking us for a ride. And they found, how long ago was you saw the mountain lion here? About a couple weeks back?
Last weekend.
Last
Sunday night.
Okay. Somewhere back here they saw a mountain lion last weekend. And went across over here and went across the road. This is pretty back here. I don't know what kind of trees these are. Looks like oak trees.
So someday when my ship comes in, I know just what we'll do. We'll pack our bags and quit our jobs and have a holiday for two. We'll pack our bags and quit our jobs and have a holiday for two.
Yep, getting ready for the ride. I didn't realize it, but I didn't have all my buckles on.
I know exactly. And then you're like paralyzed for a minute, kind of like.
And then it goes away.
Yeah.
Like right now, it just went away.
A minute or two later, I realized, oh, I don't have all my straps hooked up. Well, our friends Cherie and Dave invited us to take an evening ride around Hutch Mountain. Right now we're leaving camp. This is Forest Road 135. And this is going to be a little different than some of the other videos we've done. It's not like riding a quad, not like riding a motorhome. It's a little different. And if those of you who have never been in an ATV like this before, these things are built to go on trails like this, and you'd be surprised just how smooth the ride is. I was really surprised. It looks kind of rough, but the suspension systems on these things are incredible. Compared to a normal passenger car, they're kind of made to handle the bumps and stuff. But this whole area right here is all part of our dispersed camp area on Forest Road 135. And Forest Road 135 actually goes back, I'll show you on the map at the end of this, goes back all the way to power line and a little farther, and the road's really not too bad. You could take a passenger car, in fact, up to Hutch Mountain lookout tower that we did earlier on our other video. If you haven't seen our previous video on that, I'll put a link up here in the corner so you can find that one. That's where we camped out and took the quad up to the lookout tower. Now, I believe right now we're getting close to being on the 135A, which is what I call a lesser known road. Now, when you're on the 135, it's pretty smooth, but once you get on some of the lesser known roads or the lesser roads, it starts to get a little bit rough, and I would not advise taking a car back here. As you'll see, it gets a little bit rough and a little more rugged. And one of the things about going this time of evening is you have a good chance of seeing some wildlife. In fact, we did a couple times. We did run into some wildlife. In just a minute, you'll see. Well, I should say we ran across wildlife and they ran away. They hear the sound of the RZR coming and they hightail it. We're not exactly a stealthy vehicle, as you might say. And they hear the RZR. I think they're probably used to hearing these kind of vehicles, so they just hightail it and get out of there. You can't say I blame them. Now, right up here is where we saw our first family of deer.
They stopped. Yeah, they're looking at us.
And I'm not sure if it was deer or elk, but I zoomed in right through the trees here, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it was funny because they just stopped, turned around, and they're staring at us right through there. It was the funniest thing. Yeah, when they hear us, they scramble away. Isn't this pretty back in here, though? Gosh. I want to say this, we're up on the 135 getting up to a spot called 7 Anchor Spring, which is probably on the left side of us. There's we're getting close to the 92. That's where we are. Beautiful area up in here. If you had like a Jeep or a 4-wheel drive vehicle and you wanted to come back here and do tent camping, you could. However, a little caveat there, I'll show you in just a minute. We're going to pull over and stop, and Dave told us that they were here last weekend actually with some other people, and they were out here and saw a mountain lion. And there were some people out here camping not too far from where the mountain lion was spotted. Yeah, can you believe that? Kind of crazy, huh? So mountain lion are pretty common out here. Deer and elk, of course, and occasionally bear. So if you do come out camping out in these neck of the woods, as they say, you may want to bring bear spray with you, just in case. And of course, bear spray will even work on mountain lions if they happen to come around. Just a beautiful area. I keep saying that. It is just absolutely just awesome back here. And it was so green. We had just had, this was around the early part of June, I'm sorry. Probably the 6th or 7th of June when we did this ride. And we had just had some rain a few days before that. That's what they call a tank over there. You'll see a lot of these little small ponds or tanks. And the Forest Service deliberately has these strategically placed around the woods and the forest for the animals, for the cows. There's cattle out here. You'll see cattle sometimes, elk, deer, other animals, and then they use those tanks as a water source. So if you're camping, don't camp near a water source like that. That's a little tip for you, because that's probably where the animals are going to hang out. They want drinks too. Every once in a while, though, you'll come driving through here on these roads, and you will see spots where people have dispersed camp. And it's allowed, if you can get out here, that is. It's not exactly an easy place to get out. In fact, right now we're making plans to go back up here and maybe in another week and get out of the heat. It is about 7,500 feet, 7,300 feet through here. At Forest River 135, I think it's about 7,300 feet in altitude. And boy, oh boy, in the summertime, it's a great place to get away to get cool. The higher, the better. I think we're getting close to the spot where, yep, we're getting close. Wow, I have no idea. Wow, that's a nice big old tree right there. Look at that.
We can go around that way.
Yeah, but we probably don't want to do it.
They said this goes through there, but it gets kind of gnarly. I'll have to look at my map and see where we are.
I wonder if we should do a group picture.
Oh yeah, I wonder if we could do. Wonder how far we are from camp.
Pretty out here. Boy, if you had a way to get back here and had tents and stuff, this would be a pretty tent area.
Bring out your Onyx.
All right.
Yeah, but the Onyx would give you an exact measurement.
I'm just looking at my map, and we're on the 683, kind of northeast of our camp. There's 7 Anchor Spring 90. We came down the 92.
Yeah, this thing rides. It doesn't ride like other side by side.
So we're up on there. Right there's where we are.
Yeah.
At the end of the video, I'll show you the complete map. I did pull it up on my iPhone, and I have what's called Gaia map app that I use. I also have another one, but I don't use it as much. The Off-Road, the OnX Off-Road. I really like Gaia. It's easier to use. But I've messed around with different ones to try them. But the one I'll show you at the end is the topographical map of the area and the trail. Yep, there's more deer. We saw some more deer and elk. Or elk. Could have been elk. It's kind of hard to tell because they were off a ways through the trees. You could see them moving. Squirrels. We saw some squirrels. And you get the big black ravens. They love this area. We had a couple of big black ravens come through our camp, and I tell you what, they were kind of scary. They were about as big as some dogs. And
over
one
there.
black raven was so big he had another bird in his mouth and flew off. It's either a bird or a squirrel. I didn't get close enough to check it out. But he flew away. He had something in his mouth. I thought, wow, that's a pretty big catch for a bird like that. But he seemed to have no problem. Hey. Tammy was enjoying it. Of course, she had a few medicinal drinks there to kind of help calm her down. But actually, she was pretty relaxed, she said. We're pretty comfortable riding with Dave. We've ridden with him before. And the roads were fairly smooth. There were a few times where he kind of picked up the pace a little bit at the end. But the roads were actually pretty good. We believe it or not, we only ran into, I should say ran into, that's a bad choice of words. We only came across 2 other vehicles the whole trip. It was about a 20, I think I wrote it down on my app, though it told me it was about a 20-mile loop all the way around. And it took us about an hour and a half, the whole loop. So we really didn't waste a lot of time making we made a few stops here and there. Take a pause for a good cause. Here's what they call the power line road. And this power line road actually runs the length of the whole state just about. It goes all the way up into northern Arizona and all the way down through south of where we are, down into the Phoenix area. It's one of the main transmission lines through here for power up in northern Arizona. And it's just, to me, this area, I can't get over how I would love to have seen how they build all this, all these power lines. And when you look at it when I show you on the map, you'll see it's just a straight swath of land they've cut through the forest and everything, chopped all the trees down, graded it down, built these power lines through there. It's really amazing, I think. We depend on that power. Yep, especially in the summertime. And we're just getting probably to the bottom of the power line road here. I know we're going to make another pit stop in a minute coming up. And it was getting close to heading back, so we just needed to make one more stop. And then we head back home for dinner. I think this is where we met another vehicle coming. You might even see it on the camera. And it's a potty break, pee break, drink break time. Whatever you want to call it. Just taking a little break off the side of the road here. Pausing for a good cause. At the end of the video, I'll show you what roads we're on, but we're on a couple of different ones. 92, we started on but we're east of the camp. And this road goes around, takes us back to camp.
David does a lot of our shopping through Pride now, where they deliver, and he didn't realize he was at this side. Water bottle.
I've done that on accident.
So we just have about another mile south. Then we're going to make a turn to the right and go up the Forest Road 135, which will take us back to our camp. So it really helps if you ever want to come out here on a dirt bike or an ATV or a Jeep, off 4x4, whatever. Make sure you have a good map app so you don't get lost, because you can get lost out in these woods. But the Forest Service does pretty good about marking the trails, so that helps. I think we're actually on the 135 right now because we're heading into the sun, so that makes sense. It's getting close to sunset. And we're getting hungry, and everybody wants to get home and get fixed dinner. Dave fixes us. He's got a smoker, and he smokes some lamb chops that are just out of this world. And I tell you what, I'm tempted to go get me a smoker. I don't remember if you used apple chips or something, apple pellets, but it was so good. Oh my goodness. It was a one of those Costco lamb chops that he bought, and he smoked them, and they were better than some steaks that I've had. They just were incredible. It might have been mesquite pellets. And we're getting close to camp because you can see the camps showing up. Sometimes I miss having our RZR. Sometimes I'm glad we don't have it. I do miss it sometimes. The quad is nice because we can get out and explore. We don't really want to do the crazy stuff like we used to do a few years back. Some of you might remember I told a story about we were in our RZR doing a trip down Sycamore Creek, and we were in the lead, and we were in a riverbed, and there was some sand that we hit that we didn't see that was like quicksand, and we just tipped over on our side. And that's hey, that's when Tammy pulled her shoulder out on that trip. We wound up on our side in the riverbed. Our friends tipped us right back over. No damage to the vehicle, and we weren't going fast. We were only moving about maybe 3 miles an hour at the time. So it wasn't like we were going 50 miles an hour or 45 and tipped over. No, it was just like a slow over to the side, right in the quicksand. But it was enough that Tammy reached up and grabbed it just the wrong way and threw her shoulder out. And now she was in a lot of pain for a couple of months. I think that pain kind of stuck with her in her mind. You know, bad memories bring back bad memories. That was getting out in those crazy trails. She didn't want to do that anymore. But she's slowly coming back. She likes to do the rides once in a while, as long as it isn't too crazy.
Last weekend it was pretty dead, but this weekend it was
And one of the things we're commenting on here is there are more campers here when we got back than were here when we left. It's like, what the heck? So it's time to get
That was awesome.
You survived.
time to get cleaned up.
Thank you for the ride. That was good.
Very enjoyable.
Good.
I think.
All right, back home. Oh, the sun's going down. I think there's more people came in while we were gone. All right, here's the keys, hon. Thank you. Whew. Had to blow some dust off. I'll make sure I'll put on the video here for this ride around Hutch Mountain. I'll put which roads we were on, because I have to look at my map. That's fun. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Time to fix some dinner and relax and enjoy the sunset. Cleanup time. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that ride around Hutch Mountain on Dave and Cherie's RZR. That was a lot of fun. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Cherie. Well, we're going to first focus on the map. First map here I want to focus on is just regular Google map. I want to show you 3 different maps and show you why we use our Gaia maps. Now this is Google Maps terrain, and this is Lake Mary Road here, north and south. This is where we turn off the 135. There's I guess somebody marked on Google Map a favorite campsite right there. You can't see Forest Road 135 on this map unless I zoom in. But there's Hutch Mountain, and way over here, you can't see it either on the terrain map, is the power line road. Let me switch to the satellite. Now you can see the power line. See that swath right there? That's the power line. Over here is Lake Mary Road, Highway 3. Here's Dispersed Camp area. This is where you turn off. This is a big park area over here. Stoneman Lake Road down here. And then 135 goes all the way to the power line road that actually goes up. And actually the 135 even continues down here past Bargaman Park. Hutch Mountain is right about here. If I zoomed in, you could probably see where we were on where the fire tower is, right in here somewhere. And there's also a tower there. That's a different one, I believe. That's not the fire tower. That's the cell tower. Let me back up a little bit. So this Lake Mary Road. Now let me switch to Gaia Maps so you can compare them. So this is the satellite on Google, and here's Gaia Maps satellite. There's Highway 3. Now you can see all the little veins. All these little veins are trails. That's why I like Gaia Maps, because it really does show you the detail of the trails. Now, here's Highway 3. This is Forest Road 135. And our camp was right about there. It also tells me the altitude is 7393 at the elevation right there. Let me close that. That's one. I can click anywhere on the map and it'll tell me the elevation. There's Hutch Mountain. That'll probably be about 8,500 there, 8,524. And if I click right there in the middle, it'll say kind of what areas are close by. And close that. So our first trail we took was 135. And then right in here is where we cut up. It's not listed here, but it's 135A. There is a little signpost right there on the actual trail. We went up this way. And I didn't start recording the trail until we got up on the 92, and this right in here where we made our stop. This is actually where we went down and made that first stop. I think this is the area where they said they saw the mountain lion right in here somewhere. Right about there is where we stopped. So just note to self, don't go down there. Gooseberry Springs, it's pretty. That's somewhere here's where we saw the first deer, I believe. We were coming up there and got on 92. Then we went up here and hit some of these other little trails, went off, turned around and kind of came back to the 92. And over here is the Forest Service Road. It says 124H. And I have no idea how they designate these in the numbers they do, but you can see some of these other little trails. These are what I call lesser trails. These are the kind of trails you don't want to go down in a car unless you have a vehicle that's capable of, has four-wheel drive and high profile, because you can get some pretty gnarly spots. Even David said that there were some spots up here where it got a little gnarly. The trees get close in. You get pretty forested in up in here. And of course, if there's mountain lions and other things around, you might not want to get back here too far and get stuck. Don't want to scare anybody, but just be aware of that. So stay on the main trails, like the 80s, the 683, the 92 right here. This is kind of a major trail. Well, a major known road. Fairly smooth. So is the power line road that comes down here. This is where we made one of our little stops right here. One of the last stops, and we came down and turned up the 135. There's a little ranch right in here. And I did some research called the Mahan Ranch. And it's kind of interesting, just to share this real quick with you. This was owned years and years and years ago by a family, but now it's operated, I believe, correct me if anybody knows if I'm wrong, but what I was reading is it's owned, and it's not owned, but it's operated by the universities right now as a training facility for like agricultural training and stuff for animals and stuff. They use this ranch up here. So it's kind of interesting. There's a couple of those ranches around here that are maybe years ago they were family owned. Is how they got the name Mahan Ranch. But that's on the 135, and like I said, also that the 135 keeps going and going. When we were in the fire tower, you could actually see Long Lake, which is way over here. There's Long Lake to the east. That was one of the lakes that I could see from Hutch Mountain Fire Tower right over there. And all this area, you can, if you have the right kind of vehicle, you can get out here and explore. But don't get lost out there. Make sure you got trail maps. There's a couple other areas down here that you can disperse camp. One of the areas that we want to go to and go back to is here on Stoneman Lake Road right here. Let me zoom in so I can show you what I'm talking about. Stoneman Lake Road. This is dispersed camping in here. And Cherie and Dave told us that they have a spot over here they like, somewhere around this Pratt Park, I think is where they were talking about. But once you get past this road, you can disperse camp on Stoneman Lake Road. Some of this up here is private area, double cabin park. This is kind of a private ranch area. I'm not sure what the deal is with some of those private areas. They're like leases and stuff. But there's the trail. We got the main camp. We went up this way, the 92 over to the Power Line Road, and then 135. A nice little loop. If you're ever out here and you want a fun little ride, I'll share this on you. You can welcome to come back and check this map out. We didn't do a lot of trails. I did one trail here on the quad right through here, and it was an interesting little trail. It shows that it's closed on the signs, but there was a way to get through. There were lots of downed trees, but I was able to get through there. So hope you enjoyed the ride. Thanks for watching. Safe travels wherever you're going. If you're getting up in this area, it is absolutely beautiful in the summertime. Great spot to summer camp. We're going to actually be up there again in another week or so with some friends. We'll probably be back in about the same spot. This time I think we're going to take Patch, because that area over there was just beautiful and nice and great for having a pet outside. It was not as dirty and dusty as some of the other campsite areas that we've been to before. Have a great day. Safe travels. Catch you later. Bye.